Welcome to Weekly Strange News. In this show, we take a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will place all the links of them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Hello and welcome to all of my first-time viewers and listeners, and of course, everyone watching this live. Please show your support for my work by hitting that like button right down below, subscribing, but also hitting that notification bell as we do 3 live shows right here on this channel, covering all topics such as UFOs, the paranormal, and things that are unexplained. Also on this channel, I do post YouTube shorts, keeping you up to date on the latest strange news. We have some pretty cool things to cover. I got some great visual aids. So let's get straight into that. I'm going to put my screen up. Here it is. Because retired U.S. Army Colonel Carl E. Nell has raised serious concerns about the ongoing secrecy surrounding UFO information, suggesting that continued suppression could have dire consequences for the United States. That's a pretty, already off the bat, this is coming from Newsweek, by the way. And this is a pretty big statement coming from a retired U.S. Army colonel. On top of that, we've, in the last week, 2 weeks, maybe in the last month, we've been getting a lot of really interesting people coming forward and in a roundabout way telling things to the public without infringing on their NDAs. And so here we have another one, and he's saying, well, if we keep this secret, there's gonna be dire consequences for the US. Okay, continue. What are these dire consequences? And he kind of left us hanging, which nobody likes that, right? But his comments come amid revelations of a 20-year-old agreement among U.S. government officials to withhold top secret research on UFOs. And Nell addressed that these issues at a conference hosted by Stanford University, where he advocated for a comprehensive plan to ensure greater transparency regarding UFOs. And he proposed a Manhattan-like project aimed at reverse engineering recovered UFOs. And this is really interesting because he's going out to the public. He spoke at Stanford University and he's saying, I want us to have another project where we are reverse engineering recovered UFOs. That means, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think so. That means that he must be aware already of programs to where organizations or agencies have collected UFOs and maybe they haven't had the technology or the brains to reverse engineer it or to make that reverse engineering public, which would be ideal, right? You know how that could hopefully benefit humanity. People always say, oh, well, if we're able to reverse engineer alien tech, it'll help us in medicine and in science and in robots and AI. And in many respects, that would be fascinating, but knowledge is power. And if you don't tell people what you're doing and you control all that knowledge, right, that means you also control the money too. And that's what this is all about. It's about greed and making a lot of dough. And it's disappointing, but that's just how our society works. But this proposal was part of a larger call for a campaign to force open the cloaks of secrecy that have long shrouded this topic, which is, yes, 100%. Now, the Daily Mail's report on this subject is grounded in the proceedings of the first symposium organized by the Soul Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering serious, well-funded academic research into UFOs and their wider implications. And that, I love it. It's so beautiful. And this event, held on a Saturday, featured insights from Colonel Nell and former CIA scientist Hal Puthoff, among others. And it says that Puthoff specifically discussed a 2004 meeting a while back, but 2004, isn't that very important in the UFO timeline? Yes. Why? Because that's the Nimitz encounter. So he discussed a 2004 meeting involving a CIA think tank, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the Pentagon. And he revealed that there was a broad consensus during this meeting to keep UFO information classified. Why do you think that is? I just think it's odd here. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I'm not really, who knows? that it happened in 2004, right after, or I don't know the exact month, but I'm just going to assume here it was right after the Nimitz encounter or incident. But I think that is very interesting. Now, Colonel Nell in his presentation shared slides that outlined his vision for a future where information about UAPs is openly discussed. And these slides, as reported by the Daily Mail, showed Nell's aspiration for the disclosure to be achieved. Take a guess of what year. You know what? I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit disappointed here. Because he wants it to be achieved by October 1st, 2030. I'm not buying that one. Yes, we're already at the end of this year, getting to 2024 with only 6 years from now. But with all the things that have been happening in the last year alone, 2030 sounds like a stretch, don't you think? Let me know in the live chat, let me know in the comments, because maybe you might think, you know what, 2030 doesn't sound so bad. But with my eyeballs, I'm thinking, it seems kind of far away. Mark, thank you for that. It says, hi, Christina. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Forgot to wish you happy Thanksgiving yesterday. I'm Canadian, and we have Thanksgiving in October. So you get Halloween and Thanksgiving in the same month? Dang, that's a lot to handle in 1 month, but thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. If you are enjoying the show thus far, hit that like button. It lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and it says, hey, YouTube, we want more content like this. I'm seeing a bunch of hello, hello. Shane says, it sounds far away. October 1st, 2030. Yeah, I'm not digging it. I feel like that's not in arm's reach by any means. And so, in addition to pushing for transparency, Nell emphasized the need for restoration of proper federal government oversight over all UAP related program efforts. Yes, sir. And you know what? I think we're kind of getting that now with the Schuman Round Amendment that has been passed. That's kind of what it's going for, following the same type of thing. We are going to be getting a new chief for Arrow this upcoming year. We're going to be getting, obviously, another UAP report. We're supposed to be getting more whistleblower hearings. Congress should get a skiff with Grush. I mean, there's a lot happening. There's a lot going on. So to push for 2030 for any form of disclosure, yeah, it's far away. But you know what? We've been pushing for this for the last 50, 60 or so years. So a few extra years, can it be that bad? Some are going to say yes and be like, look, I've waited way too long for this. Let's make it happen today. But then we have to ask ourselves the biggest question here, aside from what are we doing here? The second biggest question is, what is disclosure? What does it mean? And every single person has their own definition. When the government comes out and attempts to be transparent, is that disclosure? Are they trying to beat the tide from something else? That's a question that we need to ask, because honestly, in the last year or two, they've been really speeding things up. Congressmen have been getting a fire under them to get more information pushed forward to the public. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Why now compared to any other time in history? And could it be that they are attempting to beat the tide from something else that's going to come? I don't know. Is that a possibility? It's worth thinking about. Or are they just saying, you know what, now is the time? The stars are aligned, and that means that we, the government, will provide you transparency and disclosure. Maybe. Or are we going to get some mass sighting of some kind, like the movie Arrival? And then you can ask yourself, every single person that has had a UFO encounter or a sighting, wasn't that disclosure for them? Wasn't that enough for them? So there are so many definitions for what disclosure is, what it means. Has it happened? Are we in the process of it? Is it going to happen? Depends on your perspective on it. But the beautiful thing is that we're having very open conversations. The stigma is subsiding, not an incredible amount, but significant enough to where we're able to have these conversations and people are willing to listen versus brushing us off and saying, "You're out of your mind. Where's your tinfoil hat?" It's like, really? I haven't heard that joke before. Oh, what a good one. So original. It's not. Please don't ever use that joke. But the symposium also featured discussions from other notable speakers, including former U.S. Air Force veteran David Grush, and of course, and I'm just going to touch on this because if you're watching this, you're familiar with Grush. We are aware that he went on Joe Rogan and he said a lot without saying much. And other people found it really disappointing that he said, "I can't comment on this, I can't comment on that." But kind of like Elizondo, he was able, in some respects, able to answer questions in a roundabout way to where you had to put the puzzle pieces together. You're not going to be fed a beautiful, shiny silver spoon with your favorite dish on there, whatever that might be, maybe like ramen or oatmeal or who knows what. That's not going to happen. You have to do the work yourself, and it's going to differ based on your perspective. So he obviously spoke during his whistleblower hearing earlier this year. He was on Joe Rogan. He has redeemed his clearance to be able to hopefully have a skiff with the congressman. I don't know if that's officially yet, but at the very least, because of Burleson from Missouri, the show me state, he was able to help renew Grush's clearance. So that's a start. I think that's pretty good. We're getting somewhere. But then we have to ask ourselves another question. Why is Grush coming out now? What is the purpose? What is going on? Why is he now giving all of these interviews? Was he asked to do so? Some are going to say yes. Did he feel the need to do it on his own? Sure, I don't see why not. But it seems as if, from how I'm seeing this, is that disclosure, government-wise, looking merely from the government aspect, it's like a little stream, a little river, but it's kind of going a little fast, so you can't do really good fishing on there. But enough to where you can see the tide, but it's being, again, from my perspective, in a way controlled. Now, is it for our benefit or not? That's the difficult thing to answer here. But either way, this is a fascinating conversation that we're having, and I want to hope that it's going to help us evolve as a species more than create fear. That's the biggest takeaway that I want. But it doesn't matter what I want. It's what can be provided to the public. But getting into our next one here, this one is also related to UFOs. Also, I found this picture so cool. I thought I would share it. It's AI generated, by the way. No, this isn't real. But we're getting into our next one, talking about India. You know, India, when it comes to strange news, isn't consistently on my radar, but today it is. Why? Oh, this is so good, actually. Because an Indian airport had a UFO encounter, at least allegedly. Let's go into detail on this. And it's actually a very, very, very short article. But the mystery surrounding a UFO being seen over Imphal Airport, and I think I said that wrong, but we're just going to go with it, continues, which caused the airspace to be temporarily closed and flights to be suspended for more than 3 hours. And this was reported by Indian Times. According to a source from the Airports Authority of India, known as the AAI, the object disappeared in the sky after sunset and has not reappeared since. Now, a source in the AAI, again, the Airport Authority of India, said the object, which vanished from the sky after sunset, had not reappeared, and the IAF, reporting to the airport, was investigating. But that was it. Some reports indicated that it may have been a drone. But defense officials and the AAI did not confirm it. It was suspected to be a drone or a balloon, but the Indian airport has not shared any investigation details with us. It may be submitted to the Union Civilian Aviation Ministry directly, said an official of the international airport. And that's almost all the information that we have about this. But it sounds similar to a few other instances that have happened across the world where there has been a UFO seen at an airport and then it suspends flights. If it was a drone, pilots would say, nope, nothing to see here. We're all good. Let's gun ho. Let's continue on to our destination. Air traffic control would say, yeah, you're good to go. You know, if you smash the drone, whatever, who cares? That's probably not their mentality. But to be fair, you shouldn't be flying a drone over the airport. It's very dangerous, right? And if it's a weather balloon, I haven't come across a case, and someone correct me, please, if you have, of a weather balloon being around an airport, because that's also classified as dangerous. It's pilots can't fly over that, right? Well, they can, but it's not ideal. And if that's the case, air traffic control would say, okay, you know, after a few minutes, hopefully should be able to go. But in this case, for this airport in India, flights were suspended for 3 hours. There was another one in Turkey that happened earlier this year where those flights were suspended for 7 hours. And people said, oh, it must have been a drone. Oh, it must have been a weather balloon. But to this day, we still haven't gotten information on what exactly that was. Downfall is that no pictures have been made, at the very least public, on if anyone at the airport saw anything strange aside from a pilot. And as I had mentioned, this article was very short. We weren't really given a lot of information, but it's still interesting that this was even made public due to the India Times. So, you know what? I'll take it. And Josh says, "Ah, those pesky weather balloons. I know, right? They've been bothering us since 1947, all the way back to Roswell." They need to get some better excuses if it is an excuse. I mean, come on, spice it up a little. But if you're going to say weather balloon every single time, like this emoji, I'm going to roll my eyes as well and say, really? I mean, at the very hire on a creative writer or something, someone with a good imagination to give us a better story at the very least. But no, give us the truth. That's what we want. We don't want to be entertained. We want the truth. We want the facts. But here is the thing when it comes to facts. People always say, yeah, give me the paperwork, give me the science. And I would say like 7 out of 10 can't even read that paperwork. And hey, I'm in that category. Do not get me wrong here. If you give me a scientific paper, I'm going to need a lot of help attempting just to understand what I'm reading. Especially when given like certain numbers, I'm like, what's going on here? But people always beg and they cry and they say, oh, provide me this information. And 9 out of 10, they either don't read it or they don't understand it. So what I'm getting at here is if you're going to ask for the information, I 100% get it. Yes, we deserve the information. But at the very least, just try to understand it, you know? Wills says swamp gas or Venus. That one's my favorite. Oh, what you were seeing, it was Venus. That's what it was. Uh-huh. It's like, really? You think I'm that dumb? Come on. And John aside, thank you for that. Pretty sure Puck chats as Nightbot. Hashtag ramen wagon. To be fair, Puck the Puckwudge, who sits on my microphone every single day, is my biggest fan. And he's always smiling. Like, he loves being here. It's his favorite thing of the day is doing these shows with us. He loves saying hi to all of you mentally. If you are telepathic, you could speak with Puck. It's that easy. I'm non-telepathic, at least not yet. So we just chat via ramen emojis. And there was a source that said that the size of the object was so small that the airport radar could not detect any signal from it, which I think is kind of weird. Because if that was the case, at the very least, air traffic control should have been able to see it with the naked eye in order to cancel flights for 3 hours. Do you see what I'm saying here? If the radar couldn't detect it, and let's say air traffic control didn't see it, they would have continued their flights. But, and again, I'm assuming here, and that can be kind of dangerous, but we're going to do it together. So it makes it a little less dangerous. If it wasn't caught on radar, but the men upstairs were able to see it, then that should have been enough for them to say, okay, canceling flights, everyone's getting a delay, eat some snacks in the airport. Cassidy says, I'm psychic. That's so cool. I mean, honestly, goals. Gary bringing in the ramen emojis. Oh, yeah, that's the best. That and like just all of the emojis are actually great. Getting into our next one here, I have another UFO one. Today is just a UFO show. Usually I have like one or two for you every week, but today we are getting a solid 3 because it's just one of those days. And it's nice because after the holidays, right, the news kind of dies down, but we got some pretty good stuff this week, so I'm very excited for it. So this one, and I know people are going to say, this didn't happen this week. I know it didn't, but this article was just written. But someone had an encounter earlier this year. Okay, so just bear with me. I thought it was still very cool. Now we should talk about it. So Jolie Burns, a 39-year-old mother of 2 from Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, believes she had 3 encounters with ET, and her experiences include sighting a UFO the size, guess, of a football field, discovering strange suction marks on her body, and waking up to circling bright lights. That's a lot going on in that sentence. First of all, the United States has the best measurements where they measure everything as a football field or the size of a Walmart. I want to sign for that. I want to make that an official measurement because that is like the best. It also tells you and demonstrates to the rest of the world how American you are. And you can bet your boots on that. Cassidy, thank you for that. And Tyler says, I'm loving it. Bringing in McDonald's into this. They have the best ice cream. So during a late night fishing trip in Cape Cod, Massachusetts in the summer of 2021, Jolie and her companions, including her nephew, observed a disc-shaped object hovering over the horizon. They estimated the size of the object as large as a football field based on their distance from the shoreline. This sighting left the group stunned, and the object moved away and then returned, but no sound was heard and no photos were taken. I know it's disappointing. I know it is. But people that have the very, very first encounter, the last thing that's on their mind is to take a picture. They are so dumbfounded. They're like, what is going on here? And they do not think of pulling out their cell phone. In April of 2023, Jolie noticed unusual, perfect cylindrical blemishes on her left shoulder, arranged in a triangular shape. The markings, which she thought might be alien markings, had a pink tone and remained for over a week. That's crazy. So she had one in 2021. Another in April of 2023, where the first one, she's seeing a football field size craft. The next time, she gets these weird, perfect blemishes on her left shoulder in a triangle, which I think is so weird. And then 5 months later, in September of 2023, Jolie experienced bright circling lights while in bed, leading her to fear opening her eyes. And this occurrence happened 2 nights in a row, leaving her feeling uneasy and spooked. And Jolie, who had moved to Atlanta in 2022, shares her stories, hoping that others will come forward with similar experiences. And while she hasn't seen any ETs directly, these experiences have convinced her of their existence, leading her to perform protection prayers for her and her family. And her encounters have intrigued many, with some sharing their own stories in response. And Jolie maintains that although she cannot confirm seeing an ET, she strongly believes in their existence. This right here, to her, is disclosure, and no one can tell her otherwise. Other people that have not had their own experience will say, nope, I'm not going to believe anything until this person tells me, this scientist tells me, the government says so. But when you have an experience for yourself it changes your perspective on things, and it makes things feel more real than reading it from a book or watching a documentary or listening to someone speak at it at a conference. And that goes for anything. It doesn't even matter what the topic is. When you experience it yourself, that's when things really change for you mentally. And here it's fantastic that she was able to share her encounters publicly and for other people to feel encouraged to tell their own stories, because words, stories, they are profound and they carry this weight that inspire others in so many ways. Okay, a great example of this is like literally watching any TV show, any movie, reading any book, listening to any podcast, right? That author, that person is going to say something very specific that's going to hit you so hard in the chest where you say, "Oh my gosh, I felt that." Like like I've been through that, or whatever those thoughts may be. But had you not listened to that book, audiobook, right, podcast, TV show, movie, whatever, you wouldn't have felt those feelings. And I know that sounds kind of vague, but hopefully you understand where I'm going with this. Words are very, very profound. And I want to say thank you everyone that listens in to these shows. I do appreciate that. And hopefully they inspire you to ask bigger and better questions, to be curious, and hopefully to share your encounters if you've ever had one. But now, of course, we're getting into the paranormal with our friends across the pond. That's right. We're bringing in Queen Consort Camilla. Yes, yes, yes. This is very exciting. Why? Because who doesn't love a good ghost story? On top of that, to be completely fair with you, people in the royal family in general, they are dealing with relics living in buildings that are hundreds of years old. People have come and left. Some have died mysteriously, others were murdered, some have died very naturally. But either way, when you're dealing with all that history, people are going to see ghosts. And Camilla is no exception here. This is great because the British royal family has reportedly had numerous encounters with the supernatural spanning various members and royal residences. One notable instance involved Queen Camilla, who experienced a chilling encounter at Dumfries house. But Dumfries is spelled like dumb fry. And now you cannot unsee it because it's spelled D-U-M and then fries, like French fries. So Camilla experienced a chilling encounter at Dumfries House, Dumfries, a historic residence in Scotland. And during her visit, as recounted in the ITV documentary, The Real Camilla, she felt an intense ghostly presence that left her too frightened to return for several years. First of all, you would not be royalty if you didn't have your own TV show, at the very least, your own podcast. Okay, number one. But on top of that, she had gone through something that scared the bejeebies out of her, that she didn't return to this residence for several years. And the house, known for its significant collection of some kind of fancy furniture, was later renovated by King Charles, which Camilla felt like there's like this dissipated, eerie atmosphere. And paranormal historian Richard Flex speculated that the ghostly activity might be attributed to the Marquis of Bute. See, I am, sadly enough, okay, I am not incredibly familiar with UK. In this case, yeah, UK history. So I don't know who Marquis of Bute is, but those across the pond, if you want to tell me, I'd love to know, because he's haunting this furniture, this very fancy, rich furniture. Now, other royal figures they've reported ghostly sightings. Both Princess Margaret and Queen Elizabeth II claim to have witnessed the apparitions of the ancestor Queen Elizabeth I at Windsor Castle, a site steeped in royal history and burial grounds of many significant figures, including Henry VIII. King Charles himself has reportedly experienced ghostly encounters at two different locations as well. And at the Clarence house, writer Christopher Anderson reported that Charles had heard the ghost of his grandmother, the Queen Mother, roaming the corridors. That's whack. You know, like it's one thing to encounter a historical figure or it's like a nameless ghost, right? Compared to encountering a loved one. That's when you're dealing with all different kinds of emotions. And I don't know how I'd feel if I was in that predicament. I haven't been there. I've to my knowledge, I've never encountered like a ghost. I don't think so at the very least. I did have a haunted vacuum a few years ago. True story for those that know it, know it. But I've never encountered a ghost. But like, let's say it was a loved one. Yeah, you either be like totally mortified or say, "Hey, bunny, how's it been? You know, I missed you these last few years. How's the other side? How's Aunt Mary? How's everything going over there?" You know, like I'd have a lot of questions if it was a loved one because they love you, right? So they might answer your questions compared to just some rando person that says, "I don't know who you are. I don't understand your questions, therefore I will not answer them. I will just stare at you very intensely until you leave my property," right? Loved ones are like, "Hey, I love you so much. I just came to visit." Okay, I have a question for you. Have you ever encountered a ghost that was a loved one compared to a ghost that you didn't actually know that was a stranger to you? And how was that? How were your reactions to the both of them if you've had been blessed with that many interactions with ghosts? Let me know in the live chat. I do try to read all of the comments because it's very interesting. Now, I read here, I can read here that John says, "I don't really believe in ghosts, honestly." Hey, dude, I get you. You know what? It's not for everyone. Um, and people have all their own thoughts and theories on it. I am not going to tell you to believe in ghosts or not. That's not my place. You can make up your own mind, but I will share stories with you and entertain, but also maybe have you ask some cool questions at the same time. Yeah, Paul says, "Rip Aunt Mary." I know, right? I feel like we all have an aunt named Mary. Gary says, "Ghostbuster." Oh, yeah. Ooh, Alan says, "I saw my deceased grandmother and her brother Billy." Well, I got to ask you the big question, Alan. How did you react to that? And did you have a conversation? Like my next question right there. So the younger generation of royals, including Prince William and Kate Middleton, have their own ghostly tale as well. And their country home in Anmer Hall is said to be haunted by the spirit of a Catholic priest executed for high treason. And despite being warned about the presence, Prince William appeared unbothered, suggesting that it's quite fitting for an old hall to have its own ghost. And these various experiences across generations and locations contribute to the folklore surrounding the British royal family and their historic estates. And I like Prince William's sense of humor here, where he says, "You know what? Look, it wouldn't be quite fitting to have an old hall without its own ghost." He is not wrong here. So I thought it was funny. But says, "Oh, if the walls could talk." Probably have a lot of horror stories, actually. People are brutal in every kind of way. Dad bringing in the jokes. Teas and crumpets. Honestly, you can't go wrong. Like, they have done tea time right. Where, like, after every meal and then in between meals, they have tea and biscuits or like tea and like some kind of sweet snack. Honestly, like, that is the best way to live life. It's just like enjoying those few minutes that you have either by yourself or with a loved one and just like stopping your day, stopping your work and your worries for a cup of tea. There is nothing wrong with that. Actually, it's absolute genius. But you know what else I love about strange news is the James Webb Space Telescope. There are so many beautiful things about that telescope, and it's taken so many beautiful photos, some that we've covered and some that we have not, but this one is very appropriate for the season. Why? Because right now we are looking at this little colorful stick right here. But it ain't just no regular stick. But NASA has called it the Christmas Tree Galaxy Cluster. They are finally getting creative with their names. Actually, the original name is MAC S0416, which isn't really rolling off the tongue nicely, but Christmas Tree Galaxy Cluster? Oh, I want that on a shirt. That's awesome. And Sapphire, thank you for that. That is so kind. DJ says, I like butter and Marmite on my crumpets. Marmite is not for the faint of heart. For my American friends, do not place it on your toast like Nutella because you're gonna have a real shocker. Just gotta like put a little bit because man, that stuff is salty. So is Vegemite. But when you get it right, when you get the ratio correct, it's pretty good. I can dig it. But let's get into this article right here because NASA has combined its power of its two awesome space telescopes to produce one of the most colorful and comprehensive views of the universe ever. Using data from the JWST and the Hubble Space Telescope to collect light in different wavelengths, a new combined image reveals a parade of stars and galaxies within the massive galaxy cluster of MAC S0416, 4.3 billion light years from our solar system. And while the JWST, the James Webb Space Telescope, detects infrared light invisible to humans, Hubble detects visible light. The resulting image creates colors that help astronomers measure vast cosmic distances. And we are seeing that right here on screen if you are watching this on YouTube. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, the YouTube link is in the description box below. Click on that link because we show some always awesome photos. So, for example, a landscape of galaxies in blue and red can be seen surrounding the yellowish line of light that make up, I'm going to call it Max, because that name is just way too long with so many numbers. And the bluest galaxy, which mostly come from Hubble's data, are both the closest to Earth and the busiest hotbeds of star formation. The redder galaxies are much dustier and farther away, and they're making the work of JWST's infrared instrument, which can detect heat signatures through dust clouds. But why am I bringing this up? This is a lot of like extra fluff that I don't think all of you care about. And you know what? Same. But I'm bringing this up because this little cluster guy, our new friend, is the Christmas Tree Galaxy Cluster. And now that Thanksgiving is out of the way, the next holiday is Christmas and New Year. And then we just take a break until Easter. So we got into the holiday season, drink our hot chocolate, save our cookies for Santa, and carrots for the reindeers because they're the ones working extra hard to send all of the Christmas gifts around the world. We got to bring in science into this. And in this case, we got to thank NASA for giving a very cool name. But both because it's so colorful and because these flickering lights we find within it make it so mesmerizing. And that's why they have called it the Christmas Tree Galaxy Cluster, according to Haojing Yan, a professor of astronomy at the University of Missouri and lead author of a new paper describing the results. And that was in a NASA statement. It's pretty cool. And the paper is now available for preprint database ARXIV. If you want to read that in detail, you definitely can. But it's also in the Astrophysical Journal as well. Trying to be just a little bit easier to read. But since 2014, Hubble has been busy imaging the faintest and youngest galaxies ever detected. And the JWST is now adding valuable data about the early universe. And that was one of the biggest reasons to why it was launched. Yes, we've got some beautiful images from Mr. Webb telescope. But on top of that, the big purpose was to see kind of the beginning, the Big Bang. And NASA thinks that they're getting that they've got a lot of really crucial, important data. But what's very cool, I think it was last week we covered that some scientists believe that there were two Big Bangs. We got a number one that we have all here, and then number two created all of the dark matter. Take it or leave it. I am not a scientist, so I cannot tell you otherwise, but I just thought that was very, very cool. Now, can we get more information on that? I'd love to. I want to know how they got that, but there is a paper on it if you do want to read it. And if you have a scientific mindset, I don't have one of those. I'd like to, but man, the numbers, the number crunching, that gives me the headaches more than anything else. But aside from that, it's still very cool. If you're enjoying the show thus far, hit that like button. It lets me know that you're enjoying the show. And if you've liked at the very least one article today so far, hit that like button. Do it right now. And subscribe if you haven't already, because we do 3 live shows right here every single week. I have one final article for you. And this one's kind of gross. So I picked out a really cute picture of a fly. And this is from a TV show called Fly Tales. I think it's French. I had to look it up on YouTube. And it's like 5-minute episodes. They're very bizarre, of like the life of a fly that's very mischievous. This is the picture of it. But this one is grody in some ways and kind of very cool in others. So here, doctors in Missouri got the shock of their lives during a routine colonoscopy when they came across a fully developed fly living in the patient's colon. What? Hold up. If you know anything about the human body, right? And all of those interesting intestines in the stomach area, those stomach acids are intense and they will dissolve almost anything. But these doctors doing their regular colonoscopy, doing their thing, and they find a whole fly, a little bug in there, untouched. What is going on here? So the American Journal of Gastroenterology, I think that's how you say it, recently published the bizarre case of a 63-year-old man who had a fly living inside of his intestines. The man had shown up for a routine colon cancer screening earlier this year, and doctors at a Missouri hospital conducted a colonoscopy, as they should, a procedure where a camera is inserted into the intestines to check for any abnormalities. And that is exactly what the physicians found while exploring the patient's transverse colon and the area at the top of the large intestine. They encountered an intact fly that had somehow survived the gastric acid and was just chilling inside the man's body, you know, living its life. Now, was it its best life? No, it was not here. I don't know if I should be laughing, but this is just so weird. And this case represents a very rare colonoscopic finding. And they had written that in that journal that I just mentioned to you. And it's a mystery how the intact fly found its way into this part of the colon, right? The upper part of the larger intestine. And although no one knows how the fly ended up inside the man's, like, in his gut, it is a known fact that fly, if you're eating, just put it away just for a second, please. So it's a known fact that fly larvae laid in fruits and vegetables can sometimes survive our stomach acid and then hatch in the intestines. However, the patient had only consumed clear liquids the day before the colonoscopy as per the doctor's recommendation. And the day before this 24-hour fast, he had eaten pizza and lettuce and did not recall seeing a fly or anything else in his food. Now, the fly did not move when prodded by the doctors because if you have a colonoscopy, obviously there is a camera attached to like all that wide rim that goes inside of you to see any weird abnormalities, obviously. So the doctors, they're doing their thing. They're putting a little camera inside of there, looking at a screen, and they come across a fly body and they say, what's going on here? And they're kind of poking at it, and the fly is not reacting. And you can find the pictures. I didn't want to share it here because it's kind of grody, but that link will be in the description box below for this article for you to look at on your own time. And so probably by now, that fly has been digested and taken in for its nutrients and protein, I guess, onto its next life. And that's that. But this this is really gross in some ways, but to be fair, all organic foods, when I say organic, I mean like literally like fruits and vegetables, it's going to be bugs on it. Now, if it's organic, right, that they don't want to use pesticides or herbicides, you're going to deal with some pretty grody stuff. Like, I like to buy organic and I wash all of my stuff with veggie wash because people touch it and that's gross. And so last time, fun story for you, talking about bugs and vegetables. So if you're still eating, just push to the side just for a moment. This was like 2 weeks ago. I bought this nice head of lettuce and I was washing it up with my nice little veggie wash, doing my thing. And then all these bugs were like sprouting out in the water. And I said, oh no, this is grody. So then I wash it again. I'm like, wash. Maybe everything will be fine the second time around. Because it's for salad, right? I'm not going to wash, I'm not going to cook my lettuce. That's weird. And I wash it again. And then more bugs were coming out. And I said, I can't do this. You know, I'm not really for this kind of stuff. Not yet, at least. So I made the tough decision of throwing it away. And I wash all of my fruits and vegetables. And that's the first time it's ever happened to that extent where I'm getting like all these like weird gnats and weird bugs coming out of this head of lettuce. And I thought to myself, now, after reading this article, I thought, if I were to eat this, but these little critters inside, would they live in there? It's almost like the myth of eating a watermelon seed. And then a watermelon, whatever, it's just going to, plant's just going to grow out of you, come out of your nose and your ears and stuff. That's what we tell kids all the time, right? That the same thing with bugs. Well, here it says that if you eat fruits and veggies, fly larvae can survive in the stomach acid and hatch inside of you. That's gross. That is very gross in so many ways. I didn't want to disturb your appetite too much here, but it is strange news. This is strange news, so we had to cover it. You're welcome. Now I finished. You can continue eating what you were doing earlier. Start drinking because you want to stay, healthy and stuff. So. Jeremiah says, very gross. Oh, it is. It is. Yeah, Toonflex says, sometimes canned fish can carry parasites. There was an article. One of my favorite websites is Oddity Central. I get a lot of my very strange news from that website. And there was a TikTok influencer who was fishing, and he came across a fish that had parasites in it. I can't remember what kind of parasite it was. Anyways, he knew. And he's like, I'm still going to eat it for the views, right? I think it was ringworm. And then, well, obviously this fish was infected. He was infected and had to be rushed to the hospital. But hey, he got like several million views and that was his hype for him. Your life isn't worth it. Okay? Your life is not worth the views. And so, yeah, fish can be all kinds of contaminated as well. And you know what? That is gross. Just have a critical mind. But DJ bringing in the nutritious facts here. And he says, garlic is a good, cheap anti-parasite. Yes, it is. It's good stuff. I put it on almost everything. Like 5 cloves in like all of my dishes. Also, this one's a good one too. Yes. Love it. Need some of that turmeric in there. Tyler says, yuck, I'm definitely remembering that from now on. I'm washing my food extra thoroughly from now on. It's ideal. It's a good idea. But that is it for today. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. Follow me on Twitter at eyes_on the skies for all of my updates and news. There is that handle. Also, take a look at my Instagram at Strange Paradigms, where I share pictures and short videos. Here it is. Yay. And then if you want to continue this conversation, bring it over to the Discord server with 2,800 like-minded members. Share your thoughts, your insights, your experiences, and more. I know one of my amazing mods will share that link in the live chat for you. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We do 3 shows a week, every single week. If you are enjoying all the content that you're seeing on this channel, consider being a Patreon supporter, where all the funding goes right to the channel, to Puck the Puckwudgie, and to the RV Fund, where I'll be traveling the United States, hitting all the UFO and paranormal hotspots, documenting it, and taking you on the journey with me. I'm graduating this month, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. But that is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.